Ethan with another episode of Tune for you all. Today we are working on a Ford Focus RS. I'm going to be going into some of the details in HPTuners and how you deal with these EcoBoost engines and what differences there are from maybe other cars. I'm definitely excited to be working on the RS. There are not many of these on the road. And we've actually, the HPTuners has disabled, they have a function to disable the all-wheel drive. So that's fortunate that we can even get it on our dyno. But let's get to it.
It just needs to be very brief burnout.
Have you ever sighed about a very brief burnout? I thought his problem was that they're too long.
I'm gonna back up just
That was only the front. That was for sure only the front.
It felt pretty good.
But if you want to do that again?
No.
Okay. Left. That's pretty good. That they tuned it to have all those cracks and burbles and pops and everything in it. Yeah, absolutely.
There would be less depression in the world.
There would be less depression. More crackles, pops, and burbles. More brat. Yeah, it looks good. Well, I love the color. It's the color I would pick.
Yes,
it's probably the color that Cody would pick. Yeah. This or the gray?
Yeah, this is the gray.
Yeah.
Those were my two favorites because that gray was just such a nice, subtle gray. Is beautiful.
But this blue will get you more tickets.
I got 3 tickets. I got 3 tickets the first day I bought the car.
Yeah.
The first day I bought it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're about to make our baseline run. We finally got it all strapped down and happy, and so I'm going to make one run here, maybe with a little bit earlier rev limiter. Make sure it feels fine. But this is baseline with stock map right now.
Stock map.
Hey, there we go.
260?
260 and 294.
Yeah.
So that's about what I expected to see. I mean, you can really see the waviness in the. Is that going to be able to see what's on the screen right there right now, you think? Right. Cool. Okay, so we've done 2 baseline runs. The first pull was 260. The second pull was 253 here. More importantly is the shape of the pull. You can see this waviness here. And I know from looking at the log and the way that Ford does the boost control on here is that throttle body, even as your foot is all the way to the ground, that throttle body is varying its percentage to try to keep you at the desired boost level and the desired, more importantly, torque level. I think I might have touched on this on one of the Roush Mustangs we did a tune feature on, but all that new stuff, the new Ford stuff, is torque based. So when you're pressing the throttle, it's saying, the car is saying, hey, he's asking for like 200 foot-pounds of torque. How do I best deliver him this 200 foot-pounds of torque? And that can be with ignition timing, with boost, with opening the throttle more. There's a lot of different checks and circumstances that it goes through to arrive at whatever boost level it is. So it's not as simple as just going in and changing, hey, I want more boost. There's a ton of tables that you have to sculpt where the limits are and where the expected values are, and you got to have all that stuff within an expected range, or else it's not going to act right. But in stock form, this is the throttle body going full open, and then up. Let me shut a little bit. Let me shut a little bit. Let me shut a little bit. And you can't really feel it driving it too much. I would say you can feel it in some of the other Fords, like the Raptor. You feel it big time. But anyways, the idea is we're not going to try to completely stop the throttle body shutting. That's part of the strategy. What we want to do is optimize it to where it comes up to a level and it hangs that level. So we're hoping we can smooth all this out, and then the resultant horsepower curve is dipping like the torque curve as well. So if we can smooth that torque curve out, our horsepower curve will come up as well. And but that's a pretty good picture of how the power band works, and I'll probably be able to show you in the log what's going on there too, with the throttle actually shutting. And, so you can see. Okay, so the green line is our TPS. Not what we're doing with our foot, but is what the actual throttle blade is doing. So you can see there's the pull, there's the peak RPMs of the pull out here. The green line is the throttle opening, shutting, opening, and then shutting, and then for most of the run there, it is, let's see that, 42, it's at 42%. Even though my foot was all the way in it, the throttle body is only open 42% at that moment in time. So the idea is to get, we're still gonna have a taper down of the throttle body as we come to an end, but the idea is to get rid of that blip there and get rid of all this jagged seesaw stuff right here. That needs to be a smooth taper down so that it feels best. A perceptive driver can feel this happening. Okay, so other things of note in this stock log here is how rich it goes out at full tilt. We're down to 0.75 lambda. That's deep in the tens, and damn, even lower, 7.0, 6.9. That is ridiculously rich. But that does bring up another point, is that in a car that still has a cat, you can't run it. What would be optimum fueling for power will not be optimum fueling for the life of the catalytic converter. So I think he said he's going to replace the downpipe, so we're not too worried about that. But we do want to keep some kind of enrichment. That's cat over temperature enrichment that's going on, that's driving it super rich, and we are going to get rid of that right now for dyno purposes. But for on the street, what I'm going to do is I'm going to still have the cat over temp, but I'm going to make the targeted value not nearly as rich, so that it shouldn't interfere so greatly with the power of the vehicle.
Yeah.
I didn't have this bit on the screen when I was talking about the air-fuel ratio earlier. So this is the whole histogram of everything that we went through. So you see how rich that's getting. Really, there's no reason to go, for power, there's definitely no reason to go richer than 0.80 or so. There's no reason to drop down below that. So anything below 0.80 is just costing us a lot of power right now. Yeah, so this is the dead stock file, Mason stock right now. I'm gonna go to engine, I'm gonna go to fuel, I'm gonna go to power and rich, and then wide open throttle lambda. So you can see here where there's this little island of 0.78 and lower targeted. So we're gonna set all of that to 0.80 right now. Boom. Okay. The other thing that happens, sometimes this table right here, specifically on the Fords, this table gets goofed up. I cannot offer an explanation, but when it shows like this, it works fine in stock form, but once you actually flash the map, then this is something to be very careful of. The Mustangs have this, the Raptor had this, so you gotta watch for this wide open throttle fuel enrichment pedal. You can see they're all 6,000s and all 90%. So if I flash this right now, we will not get fuel enrichment until 6,000 RPMs and 90% throttle. That's a quick way to blow up a motor.
Yep.
So I changed the wide open throttle lambda, and I'm also going to fix this fuel enrichment pedal table here. And I can do that, and if I want to just open up a compare file that I know that I've already fixed that in, and then you guys can see. So that's what the good version looks like. So I opened up a compare file. So that's the stock file, and then here's one of my other tuned iterations where I've already changed all this stuff. So you see how it's 1,000 through 7,000 RPMs is a scaler, and then those are the various percentages that will force it into power enrichment. So 40% throttle at 4,000 RPMs will throw it into power enrichment. The higher you are in the RPMs, the more likely it is you're wanting power enrichment, so the percentages go down as you go up in the RPMs. So what I'll do is I'll copy those, paste those back in, And then I need to copy the scaler out too. Edit, grab those, copy, paste. All right, so now I've changed just the enrichment pedal as a fix, because just for a little weird problem it had, and I've changed the wide open throttle lambda there. The other thing I'm going to change right now is related the cat flange temperature control, cat over temp control, and O2 sensor temp control. We're going to turn off all 3 of those items. And now this is an item though that I was saying when I'm done I will actually have COT on. I just will have the max enrichment here. See how it targets all the way down to 0.68. I will limit that enrichment where it can add some extra fuel, but not just dump fuel like that and kill the power. So I'll save this one as Mason stock plus PE and COT. Those are the only changes I've got. So now I'm going to flash this is our first non-baseline run.
First non-baseline run. Well, just one change. Just one change here. We are experimenting. 263.3 and 312.4.
It didn't make much more power, but it made like 12.
Quite a bit more torque.
More torque there, yeah.
Well,
that's the peak power, so we need to look at the whole graph here to really.
Yeah.
So is that what the tune we were running before?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That was just one step. That was just one. That's first, like the first drive you and I made after I made changes. That was that. I wanted to see how much just taking the fueling away would change it.
Yeah, how much of the power
I'm kind of surprised the horsepower didn't jump up more there, but I really need to overlay the two to get a good picture of what's going on.
Especially with this car. And actually all the Fords in general, to be honest with you. They're pretty complicated to tune.
Yeah, new Ford stuff. I mean, at least they give us the option to.
Yep, that's exactly right. Like that Raptor was all kinds of wonky when you looked at it.
Correct.
So explain to them what they're looking at here.
So this is an overlay of the two runs, the stock run and
just with changing
just changing the cat over temp and that PE over enrichment. So I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's not that big of a difference, although this extra torque that much sooner and not see the closure. Yeah. We still got a little bit of a closure, but not nearly as bad. But more importantly out here, how it's carrying power past this moment. So peak horsepower is still here, so the peak number didn't change that much, but that's a lot of area under the curve there that as you're coming to red line, previously the power was falling off really badly, and now it's not falling off quite so much. If we can get everything right, we should be able to get it to be gaining horsepower out here. Yeah. Yep. So here is the same wideband EQ plot that we just looked at a moment before, but previously it had all those 0.7s in it. So you can see how it barely touched that 0.79 now instead of driving down 0.74. It touched 0.69 earlier. So it climbed up a lot, right in the area that I want it to be, that 0.80. So it's nice on these more modern Fords and others that you can generate this histogram like this and really see not just, oh, it was this air fuel at this point, but the yentire thing, was good and safe there anytime we were in power. Okay, so we're going to experiment with one more change here while we still have kind of baby settings on it. This anti-shuffle switch, that's by default, that's on, and that has a lot of control over throttle body stuff, and as well as it's trying to soften the driving experience of a manual transmission for the driver. Yeah. But sometimes what it does is not what you want it to do. So I am going to disable that and flash it, and we're going to see if that nets us any gain at all.
Yep. 365 and 319.
So now we need to capture the tiny little bit that I changed to get that little more bump right there.
We're good.
Okay, good. So with the shuffle, anti-shuffle off, we did another couple horsepower, but another, I don't know, 8 foot-pounds or 7 foot-pounds of torque.
Yep.
Let's see what that trace looked like. It looks smoother, I would say, in general. So I think that anti-shuffle is definitely not something we need. On. Yeah, definitely looks better. Power is almost lipping up at the end there. So
almost lipping up, yep.
Let's see if I can pull up the, oh, that's it. Average is selected here right now. That's why I was like looking at these, what's going on? so even with just that change, it brought up our average torque 6 foot-pounds. So not just 6 foot-pounds at one place, but over the entire vehicle run, the torque average was up 6 foot-pounds. So that's pretty substantial. Horsepower is a smaller difference, only 3. But then when you view it max, so you know 8 torque and 1, but that doesn't tell you the whole story there when you look at those numbers.
It doesn't.
Yeah. You can see also the shape of the curve lipping up at the end now versus tanking hard previously.
So it is true.
Now I'm going to get a little bit more serious with my changes, and hopefully we're going to see that horsepower number jump way up.
Cool.
So I want to go over a couple other tidbits that I'm about to change. I talked earlier about how it's a torque-based ECU. So you ask for 200 foot-pounds, you ask for 300 foot-pounds. If the car happens to be doing something that makes more than 300 foot-pounds, well, you don't just get that bonus power, it's going to drag it back down to 300 foot-pounds. So you have to bump the expected torque. So here under Torque Management General, I'm going into these 3 tables, and here is my modified version. There is the stock version. So I haven't changed it like a huge amount. You know, peak number stock was 340, and peak number in my version is 410. But I haven't bumped the lowest stuff because you don't want to change that cruising, because that means you could have you know, you'd be trying to make more torque while you're just cruising down the highway. You don't want that. So you can't just take and grab the whole table and put 500 foot-pounds, or you'll have a poor driving vehicle. So there's the differences between them. So about 70 foot-pounds difference with a little fade in where it was 16, then it was 50, then I went with most of the bump there. So I did that to all 3 of these max torque tables. Gave them all. I think it was about 15-20% bump then. So that gives me a little bit of extra overhead for when I do start adding a little bit of extra boost or bumping up the timing. So that brings me to my next area, which is this LSPI reduction. So this is kind of to be thought of as the boost shaping tool. So in factory form, it looks like this, where we target our highest number is at 3,000, and then it fades away. So this load limiting is really boost limiting. So around 2.0 is like 14 pounds or so. So here we're limiting, this is on the low load area. So it doesn't have all the boost at this moment, but we can still gain something by, instead of having this 1.91 be the peak and then drop down, I'm gonna hang that 1.91 all the way out, so that even if we're barely on it and we build some boost, that it doesn't try to taper that boost away once we get out a little bit higher. Same thing on the high table. Now the high table, I have here's the stock map, which hit 2.5, but then it tapered way down, 2.4, 2.3, 2.3, 2.1. So I've not changed the peak number, but I've carried that peak number out all the way. So hopefully we won't get that throttle body closure or that torque control to bring us down in boost. Then this is the nominal. I did the same thing there. So I'm gonna flash this map, and we'll see what a little bit more boost does for us.
What were you saying, Ethan?
I forgot to mention one other thing. I was looking at the ignition timing on the previous polls, and man, it goes so low, especially around peak torque, and we're not even anywhere close to anything questionable as far as timing. So I went into for right now on the dyno, I went into the global spark and I added 1 degree of timing everywhere. Later I'm gonna go into the specific mapped points and I'll massage different timings in certain places, not with the global setting, but for dyno purposes and make it quick and easy, I have added 1 degree everywhere right now.
Okay. Let's see what it is. Hey, there we go. 280 and 331.9. That's a great bump.
15 more horsepower or something, and then 10 more foot-pounds, 12 more foot-pounds or so, yeah.
Yeah. Now that's a great gain. Heading in the right direction. God, look at those two ugly-ass guys on the other side of that window. God, man, y'all get out of the view of this camera. Oh, my Lord. You want to look at the map?
Yeah, so there's the one versus the other. So there was that 1 degree added in, and there's a little bit more boost added in. You can see how this, instead of dipping down here, it stays flat. It's pretty good looking. I'd like to get this fall off at the end now, because I've held it out better. That fall off is a little bit more extreme right now.
Yeah.
on the tuned run. It's still ending with more torque, but it's falling off quicker from that point on. I need to figure out what I need to do to make that hold out, because that horsepower line is not climbing up at the end. Let's see though. We should have a substantial difference here. I want to view these averages between. So just between that run and the last run, 15 torque average different, and 11 foot-pounds or so. That's pretty significant.
This is a stock car, remember, guys.
Yeah, no mods at all.
Yeah, completely 100% stock.
So we're not trying to do stuff that is pushing the limits. I'm trying to see what changes, make it happy, and we'll maybe even stress it out less.
Yeah.
So we've made pretty good gains without increasing the boost very much at this moment in time. I've increased increased the amount of boost and how it ramps in sooner right now, but not really taking the overall boost up. So now we're going to play with that, and that goes back to the torque tables that I already changed earlier. But you can see that they peak out at 3,000. I mean, that's the torque peaking out, which that is where it peaks out. But I don't want to have nearly as much taper off as we've been having. I don't know if the engine is capable, how much it's capable of sustaining, but I want to overshoot this a little bit rather than undershoot it and have it limit me. So I'm going to take all of these torque values at the peak, this 410, and I'm going to apply that to everything on down the line. Okay, so those are changed. I'll fix these two right here. Right. Okay, so now our maximum torque doesn't taper off. So we shouldn't have the ECU limit us in that way. I don't want to go too far from it. I don't just want to put in 800 foot-pounds because then it will start to screw with us. So I bumped up the maximum torque allowed. Now I'm also going to go back to the boost tables and change some of those to go ahead and bring us up, and hopefully we'll have just the whole plot that we just had, but all moved up a little bit. Here we go. Here we go. So so we are done with the Focus for the day. We came to a slightly abbreviated end. Owner's got to get out of here. So, but we're at a good place to stop. So our peak numbers, you can see we got about 20 foot-pounds, 21 foot-pounds of torque, and about 30 horsepower. But you can see how much we gained, way more than. Look at that huge swath of torque right there. You know, so
that's a lot.
That's 290 to 320.
Early.
So that's like 30 foot-pounds of torque right there.
Yeah.
That's gained. So if you view as an average, that tells a little bit more of the story. Is that over the whole run, we're averaging, you know, that much more torque. What is that, 20 or so?
Yeah.
And then here another 20, you know, over the average of the run. That's a pretty big difference.
Over the run.
You can also see the shape difference is definitely a better shape on our final version with this torque bubble up, and then it's not opening shutting as much. It's a smoother come down. The horsepower is increasing past the crossover here versus falling down. You know, here it's falling off, and here it's continuing up. So that makes a pretty big difference right in that peak before you go to the next gear. And so when you do go to the next gear, though, you're landing back in a much fatter area right there. The car feels a lot different, I know, from... We made a few more changes on top of that, so it should be even better.
That's good.
But I'm happy with that result for a super small boost increase. It's like a pound and a half, maybe over stock. So very simple changes here that...
hey, they amounted to a pretty nice change.
Made a big difference on the street, and pretty substantial difference on the dyno.
Absolutely. Well, hey guys, we really appreciate y'all. Hey, don't forget, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that notification button and that subscribe button, and we'll see y'all next episode.